So there's this account in Matthew chapter 14 where Jesus goes off on a mountain to go pray. However, he sends his disciple ahead of him on a lake. Well, in the middle of the night, sometime between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m., these guys encounter this crazy, nasty storm, so much so that their boat is being tossed and battered back and forth. So if it says that they were worried about their boat, rest assured that boat was about to sink. All of a sudden, one of them spots a ghost on the lake. Close observation reveals that it's actually Jesus, and Jesus speaks to them and says to them, "Take courage, it's I, don't be afraid." But while all the disciples are still panicked, Peter looks out at Jesus and makes the most crazy request you can imagine. Tells Jesus, "If it is really you, call me out to come to you." Why in the world would Peter make such a request of Jesus? A few possibilities came to mind. One, I think Peter just did the math. You see, he figured out his boat is sinking and Jesus is walking on water. It seems safer to be with Jesus. What's even more incredible than Peter's request is the fact that Jesus himself tells Peter, "Come." And for the first time in human history, known human history, man walks on water with his Savior. Now, there's a little moment where Peter takes his eyes off Jesus and starts sinking, but even there, Jesus immediately picks him up and gets him back up. This story is an illustration of how you and I can step out of the safe and familiar and into new territory that may be risky but highly rewarding. So the question is, how do you know when it's time to get out of the boat and start walking on water? Number one, listen clearly for Jesus' voice before you get out of the boat. There's nothing more risky than trying to walk on water without Jesus. Note that Peter actually heard Jesus call him to come. Peter didn't get out of the boat because he didn't like the dudes on the boat. He got out because his Savior was calling him to come experience the supernatural. If you're sensing a calling to the next stage, be sure that Jesus is the one calling you and not just because you can't stand those you're currently with. Number two, you will have to get out of the boat. See, I've been a Christian long enough to know that we sometimes use passivity as an excuse. We say things like, "I'm waiting on God to lead me." Come on. The boat represents our comfort zone. The water represent those risky places that God is calling us into that is risky, but also highly rewarding. The next stage of your spiritual maturity is more than likely outside of your current set of experiences. If you want to walk on water, you have to get out of the boat. Third thing to consider is this. Jesus has already gone ahead of you into those rough waters and will receive you when you get there. There's this fear that things might shake up, things might be rough. Yes, stepping out of the boat might be difficult, but note in the story that Jesus was already waiting for Peter in the water. It could be argued that Jesus had supernaturally solidified the surface of the water that Peter would walk on. If you're going to step out of your boat, you might experience some rough waters, but rest assured, Jesus will be waiting for you there. And number four, even if you fall, you won't fail. So there's that whole section in the story where Peter starts walking on water, but then he notices this huge wave coming towards him. He loses focus and then starts to sink. But note that Jesus immediately picks him up and puts him back on the boat, and things are okay. Peter was human. Most of us would probably have experienced the same thing had we been the one walking on water. We probably would have taken our focus off Jesus and began falling. And also, I think it's important that we not forget that there were actually 11 other men crouching in the boat, afraid to even step out. At least Peter got to experience the supernatural. Jesus is there to pick us up. You see, God ensures that no matter what happens in our lives, when we step out of the boat, He'll cause even those hard times to work together for our good and for His glory. So, if the Lord is indeed calling you to step into the next season of your life and it's a little scary, understand this, that He will be with you. But the fact is, if you want to walk on water, you have to get out of the boat.